Are you ready to get your feet wet? Because this is the Knowledge Pool, hosted by Gathering Information. We're here to bring you a casual conversation between friends about everything to do with collecting, trading, and playing Magic the Gathering.
I am Tams.
I am Step.
And I am Laura.
So put on your bathing suits and dive right into the Knowledge Pool. Hey everybody!
Hey, how's it
Hello.
going?
Welcome. Are we all here? We're all here. We've eaten our cookies though.
We've missed a draft cat, though.
He'll be here.
Yeah.
I'm sure
He's
he
around.
will.
So, hey guys, how's your week been?
Busy.
Got any magic?
Very busy.
Just stuff with you guys.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
part of the reason it's been so busy.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're going to get there later. We're going to talk all about the fun stuff we've done.
Are we not doing that first?
No.
We're doing
No.
something else first.
We're
All
doing
right.
In the News first. This is the opposite of our other podcast.
I don't have the show notes, so I don't know these things.
The very extensive show notes. Let me show you how extensive they are.
I see.
Yep. Not that he can read them anyway.
Nope. I leave that to more people who are more skilled in deciphering Eldritch script.
Are you saying that I have Eldritch script?
The light
He's not saying that you don't.
the light blue pastel pen doesn't help either.
That's fair. That's fair. So,
So what are we starting off with?
well, it's been a really busy week in the Magic verse. Well, at least the last couple of days.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, actually, today has been the busiest day in
Perfect
the last couple
timing.
of months.
so good, right? I was so excited, but I was like, wow.
We are recording this on Wednesday, by
Yeah.
the way.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, we're gonna finish our recording and then put it live tomorrow, and then they'll just have spoiled like
Of course.
Damnation is in the set or something.
That's what they've been doing the last couple of weeks.
Of course.
Yeah, that's mean. So, anyways, where do we want to start? So, of course, what we're talking about is Amonkhet. There's been
Yup.
lots of stuff.
Amonkhet looks
Yes.
like. Well, there's still no Jackal Pup, and I'm waiting with bated breath for them to reprint Jackal Pup.
You'll pout if they don't?
I will pout a little bit. I will tweet tomorrow, why no Jackal Pup?
I'm sure he'll take your concerns very seriously.
He usually does.
He's
He's good that way.
had a bit of a rough week, though. Speaking of, the Amonkhet invocations,
Yeah.
which are the new,
Masterpiece series.
yeah, the Masterpiece series. So if you haven't taken a look at them, I would strongly suggest doing so. They look much different than all of the previous Masterpiece series, and it's causing some comments, we'll say.
Let's be honest, they look different than any Magic
Yeah, they
cards.
don't look like Magic cards to
No,
me.
not
Like,
really.
They look more like something out of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, so what they're talking about is the fact that it's very heavily Egyptian themed. It looks kind of like it's on a pedestal within a framed book, sort of in a tablet type of situation.
It's very busy.
There's a lot going on there. My main concern is the fact that unless you spend about 5 minutes looking at the card, you won't realize that the card name is actually written on it up at the top. It's just it's mixed in with some like Wingdings font and then some junk hieroglyphics at the start and the finish, so you can't really tell when the words begin.
They're almost illegible. And I'm actually going to go to the real card, because even seeing a digital image, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, so
They're
what
a little bit easier to read.
Trick Jarrett, who's one of the Wizards employees, has posted on his Twitter a GIF of him flexing the foil back and forth, just so you get a really good look at what the card looks like in motion. I have to say, the 3D elements certainly come out.
Yeah.
I like the 3D element.
Yeah, it does look like that pretty strongly. It's just really hard to read what the card is, what it's supposed to be doing, and the mana symbols are not colored, which means that you have to look towards the pillars, which is a completely different location than normal for the color identity. And basically, if you don't know what this card is and you're playing against it, good luck.
Yeah.
I can read that is Cryptic Command now that I'm looking at the real card rather than the digital image, but
It's a problem when you're 9 inches away from your computer screen looking at the digital image and you're having to work at reading what the title of the card is.
And
Yeah.
keep in mind, we are, all three of us, adult English-speaking natives.
Yes.
None of us have to worry about, because all of the masterpieces are printed in English. it's such a short print run that they do not.
Oh, they
don't translate them, regardless of where they're being put out.
So that could be a problem.
So
too.
if you don't speak English as a native speaker, or if you have any sort of visual impairment or learning disability, even more good luck will be needed.
Now, the same isn't true of the text box.
No.
At least the text box
not.
is very easy to read.
Yeah, it is capitalized, which is a bit weird, but I mean, it looks fine. It's certainly completely legible.
It's done in block lettering. It looks like it would fit in an Egyptian kind of.
And if they'd had that
look.
up at the top, I'd have been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it wouldn't really look right, I think. I don't know. I think this was a swing and a miss. Like.
Yeah, they definitely were trying to be creative. And
I appreciate that because that is highly creative.
yeah, it's completely different than anything we've seen before. And if it were legible and like easy to read on first glance, considering of course that all of this is new artwork as well, so even if you know what the old cards look like, it's not going to help you figure out which one you're looking at.
Yeah.
So if it had been old artwork, but the new artwork does look really nice.
It's very pretty.
The color palette is all kind of samey for most of them, but if they had actual printing that you could read, and for most of it, that probably would have made a huge difference. Like, it would still look a bit weird, and not necessarily like the magic card that we've all come to know and expect, but they do look interesting, and I have to give them props for creativity.
Yeah, for me, it's just, I think they really missed, they're trying to look, a little opulent, and it does come across as just kind of faded, which also could be thematic, being that they might be relics or, the papyrus kind of feel, but
Sure.
it just doesn't pop.
I mean, the other main complaint I've seen is that the artwork is actually smaller than it is on a regular size magic card. So I've seen like some mock-ups where people took away the top border and extended out the artwork, and it looks fabulous. But because the artwork's a little bit smaller, it looks kind of cramped, and you don't really get to see all of the new art, which is a shame because it is really nice looking.
That is a shame.
Especially considering these are the super rare rares that you kind of expect to...
The ultra mythic.
Yeah, look really nice.
Yeah.
Well, they are... I mean, looking at the real card again, it does look cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And the more I look at it, the more I think I like it a little better than the
static
inventions.
Image? Oh, sure. Really?
Well, I love the art on the inventions. I didn't really like the border.
Fair.
I thought the expeditions looked great. I thought all of them looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're shrinking down a little bit more and more is troubling, I guess. Although the art is deeper, I guess. It's 3-dimensional, so it's bigger that way.
I think they're just trying to keep things different, because the point of these is that it's rare and it's visually supposed to be different.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely fine. Just, again, this one they might have missed a bit.
Now, for me, if the moving image we're looking at right now is more indicative of what the card actually looks like, my complaint about the blahness of the color palette, I think would fade a little bit, because it looks quite gold and quite eye-popping. This looks kind of brown and blah, so I mean,
sure, it might be a foiling bringing out the best.
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
I mean, we aren't going to go through all of them, are we?
No, but I thought maybe we could touch on a few of, well, let's talk about what they aren't and what we expected and what we got.
So I was expecting them to do instants and sorceries for this run.
And that's because of how...
Because in Zendikar they did lands, which made sense. In Kaladesh they did artifacts, which made sense. And in Egypt I thought, rituals and preparation, doing is more of a thing than things.
Sure.
In Egyptian mythos, like, you don't do this thing or you get cursed, or you do this other thing or the gods will curse you, kind of thing. And what they ended up doing seems like they took just a smattering of cool spells that are kind of
and
on
creatures.
theme.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a
spells,
creature.
Creatures are spells.
Oh, well, fair enough.
Fair enough. To be clear, spells of all types,
Yeah.
Sure.
except artifacts. Yeah, there aren't any artifacts.
Yeah, whereas I was expecting maybe something like kind of an Unburial Rightsy type of graveyard interaction, coming back from the dead kind of theme, which again, very Egyptian, and that's something that we're seeing some of in the actual set, which we'll get to in a second. But I mean, all of the cards that they have put out they do see play in some form of Eternal format, most of them in like Legacy or even Cube or Commander. So none of them are completely useless, and I mean you got things like Force of Will in there and Cryptic
Active
Command
Negation.
and stuff like that as well for sure. So
Also, I'm just realizing there is a definite color bias toward blue in these.
as it should be.
There are only 2 red spells. I do like the look of Entomb quite a bit. If there was one of these cards that would fit into my cube in the way that it looks in this set, I think Entomb would be the one. It's a guy being buried with sand.
Yes, it is.
And
if you've ever seen that scene from The Mummy,
and it looks good in the frame.
yeah, no, it does not look like it's been shrunk at all.
Yeah. So,
But do you think the cards themselves, taking away the aesthetic, do you think they're going to create the excitement that some of the other...
I think it's creating a lot of discussion.
That's for sure, but like financially, there were some really expensive cards printed in the last couple of...
do we actually know about how the finances panned out on that? Are the expeditions any more than the original printings of those lands?
Yes, they are.
There? Okay.
Especially the blue ones.
Well,
But,
okay. But
yes, they are because
Blue
they
aside.
look really nice, and because people who use those type of lands in any format were interested in buying at least one of each.
fair enough.
But do you think there's anything in here that people are going to be like, oh, awesome, I pulled this. Now I can sell it and make some money.
Force of Will.
Force of Will?
Yeah.
That
But
was
just
my
because-
thinking
just
too.
because
Just
it's
it'll see
forcible.
play in
Yeah.
anything.
So the ones that are obviously playable in Eternal formats,
Sure. If they'd reprinted them like on a napkin,
yeah.
it would have had the same impact. So, other than all the concerns that we've talked about, I think the final one that I would like to raise is just the fact that unless anything changes, these cards can see play in tournaments. And if you are the opponent and trying to read these upside down from a couple feet away,
Yeah. I think the text box does a lot to help with that, because I could read the text box upside down and backwards, but the name, not so much.
no, and the artwork being different again.
For me with really bad eyes, this is a deadly combination for me, because I'm not going to be able to read the title and I don't know the art.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's...
So we'll have to see how it pans out. Hopefully Wizards will appreciate the fact that, generally speaking, the community has been very happy that they're trying to be creative, but will respect the fact that many people have specific criticisms about the design philosophy that they have raised. So it's not just people saying, I don't like it. Some people are providing like concrete, here would be my suggestions as a graphic designer, someone who does this for a living.
Yeah, and that's really good, because it means they'll have very useful critical feedback.
Exactly.
And not just people raging at the
There's
screen.
a difference between criticism, helpful criticism, and just people venting
nerd
their
rage.
frustration. Yeah, because just venting your frustration, generally speaking, isn't going to do anything to impact the future.
It lets them know that you are someone who doesn't like them.
Yes.
But other than that,
Yeah.
But when you offer them, here's why, and here, especially if you can give, suggestion, it gives people a place to come from.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Moving right along to the more fun and interesting part of the news, which are the actual spoilers for Amonkhet.
Yeah.
So they've shown some new cards, some of which are reprints, but some of which are new, and some new mechanics. Steph, how about you start us off?
Okay. Let's see. Well, maybe we should start with the counter cards, the token, not the token cards, the counter cards,
the punch
cards, because that's where they decide to start off in their presentation.
All right. Well, what are the punch cards?
I guess they're going to take the place of tokens.
I would assume so.
I mean, we're.
They are giving us. They are giving us tokens as well. They said.
Well, they would have
like
to
randomly from
in the booster.
A punch card or
okay, fair enough. Yes,
I would think so.
These work like markers.
Yeah, so a punch card has a bunch of little counters that you can punch out and place on your creature, like -1/-1 counters, and brick counters, apparently. I think that's
They spoiled
weird,
at least one artifact that uses the brick counter mechanic.
I like it.
I
think brick counter just sounds
well,
a little...
I heard someone say it was so that when you paid to tapped it and revealed a land card, you could say that you bricked.
You appreciate that, though, don't you?
I will when I get to do it. So, to me, this seems like a kind of whatever move. It's
Sure, it's cute, it's fun.
It's irrelevant, completely irrelevant. Like, for +1 counters, you always use dice, right? And then for
-1 counters, you use your memory to remember which +1/+1 counters and which are -1/-1 counters.
Yeah, so this might actually be helpful for that.
Sure.
And then for things like brick counters or charge counters or, I don't know, song counters or whatever, usually you just use either dice or glass beads or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is cute and interesting, but I think largely irrelevant.
Sure. So what about the other stuff that's on the punch cards?
The other stuff, the punch card? Oh,
yes.
This is actually the part that I think is more interesting
Uh-huh.
and would have been relevant back in Theros, where we had Monstrous.
Sure.
They have Embalmed and Exerted, which are new mechanical, not abilities, but qualities that cards can have.
Mm-hmm.
So you can put one of these Embalmed counter on the card, and you'll know that it has been embalmed.
Right.
So if they had these for when you monsterized a creature, there would no longer be, did those +1 counters get there when it was monsterized or some other way, or, how did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that quite a bit.
So let's talk about the embalmed and exerted mechanics then.
Sure.
So I think this is probably, and a lot of people have been talking about the fact that this is probably the reason why there has been no graveyard hate for the past couple of sets, because it looks like Amonkhet is going to be super graveyard interactive.
So, yeah.
Which kind of hosts standard, but we're limited players, so...
Yeah.
I hear people are bored with standard anyway. Aren't they whining about that?
Our store has switched for as long as I can remember, regular Sunday standard over to modern.
Until Amonkhet comes out.
Because he's had so few people showing up for standard that he just can't even fire the events.
Yeah. That's kind of a shame, but it's also indicative of the format at the moment.
Yeah, well, I know several people who said, oh, I'm bored with standard, but this new modern Masters kind of set came out, and that was pretty fun. Let's try modern instead.
We could play modern.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what is Embalm?
Embalm, I like quite a bit. It seems to me like a little bit like the Golgari mechanic from Return to Ravnica.
No.
Whatever. Embalm is an ability that you activate from the graveyard.
So the creature itself, which they've all been creatures so far that have embalm, has to be in the graveyard first.
So you embalm this creature by paying its embalm cost, and then you get a token that's a copy of that creature.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, what is it, white? In
white,
addition to...
and a zombie.
It's a white zombie.
Yes.
So that alone, I think, is really cool, because we've got the flavor in Amonkhet of the white zombies being embalmed and the black zombies being cursed.
Sure.
So it's the embalmed versus the cursed.
Mm-hmm.
White being blessed by whatever the god.
Well, white being order and intended,
Mm-hmm.
and black being chaotic, and maybe whoops, I accidentally made this thing rise from the grave. My bad.
Oopsie.
So we know which side Lily's going to be on in that.
Yeah, Liliana, she's the mono white planeswalker, right?
Doesn't she sing? Wait, doesn't she sing that song? Whoops, I did it again.
I think so.
Yeah.
I could have sworn I've seen that music video.
Yeah, all the zombies rising. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many embalmed creatures there are going to be because they haven't spoiled the full set yet.
Right.
But it looks like each embalmed creature has a token that you can get out of the set, which is a little weird because normally they try to limit the amount of tokens.
Well, maybe it means that we won't see many other cards that are token generators.
It's possible. Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for limited, it's nice. It's just an incidental source of card advantage. Suddenly your bear, your 2-mana 2/2, can come back from the grave when you have some free mana.
And that's the first one that they have spoiled, was the True Heart Duelist, which is 1 and a white for a 2/2. It has a probably irrelevant ability.
Which means it can block an additional creature during combat.
So if you're blocking with your 2/2, well, I mean, you could trade with a dragon fodder. I guess that's not irrelevant, but whatever. But then you can pay 2 and a white and embalm it, so get a token copy of it anytime you have that extra mana sitting around.
At sorcery speed.
Right, at sorcery speed. Now, I don't know that we're going to see a reprint of, like, Intangible Virtue or anything. Probably not, but...
I mean, we already have Always Watching in Standard.
But that's Tangible Virtue. So it's only good for non-token creatures.
Yeah, that's fine. It actually works really well with the next particular...
The next mechanic?
Yeah, mechanic.
This is the one that I'm kind of like, ooh.
Is it? I mean,
I've already started to figure out ways to abuse
especially if you give
it.
your creatures vigilance.
And that's what I said before we even read. All we did was read the card, and I'm like, oh, step. This would be great if you had vigilance.
Yes.
Because then you just hold them back the next turn to block.
I'm trying to find the...
It's the red dragon. Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't actually tell you what Exert does, though.
Oh, fair enough.
Exert is the other mechanic, so it's sort of the opposite or the inverse corollary of Inspired, kind of, from Theros block.
Okay,
so,
with
again,
Theros where the creatures did something if they untapped.
Yeah, so when you attack, you can choose whether or not to exert a creature with Exert, and it does an extra thing.
If you choose to do it.
If you choose to do it.
If you choose not to, it's just a regular creature doing regular creature things, right?
So, for instance, the Glorybringer, the one they spoiled, is a 4/4 dragon for 3 red. So it's got flying and haste, and if you exert it when it attacks, it deals 4 damage to target non-dragon creature an opponent controls. Now, if it is exerted, then it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step.
Right, so you get to swing in, possibly take something out, but then it goes and takes a nap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's hard work, you know.
Yeah.
Or if you're planning on trading it off anyway, then the exert does absolutely no harm to you whatsoever.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they're going to have to block and kill it, then
well, sure. If they have
just value.
If they have 2 4/4s on the other side, and they block, and you take out the other one with the,
and they kind of have to, because otherwise
you're going to do it again.
Yeah. So it's a little bit like a barbarian rage, I guess. You know, like rage, and then I'm tired, I need a nap.
Yeah.
So I think from the limited point of view, both of these mechanics are really nice, just because they give you choice.
They seem like fun.
Yeah, absolutely. They're fun and they're flavorful for sure. So, but with the Embalm, like, you just get straight card advantage because you can bring it back as long as the card isn't super overcosted.
Scavenge was the Golgari mechanic.
Oh, sure.
You turned your creature into +1 counters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for the Exert in limited, again, it's a choice. You can choose whether or not to use its Exert ability.
Yeah.
And these don't seem to require, like, build around me. You don't need to be constructing a deck around. You can.
You could.
Absolutely.
For instance, giving vigilance to your Exert guys.
Sure,
and then exerting them every single turn. That seems
But these
sweet.
will be good cards in limited as well as in constructed, which is super nice.
Well, we know that the rare dragon
least.
looks like it would be good in limited. We don't know if they're all going to be playable because we haven't seen them all yet.
No. But I'm hopeful.
And it will be interesting to see if these do make a break into constructed, just because the decks that are currently built in constructed are super tight. Like, they don't have too much room. They're all dedicated to a specific theme. So, obviously, we'll need to wait until we have more of the spoilers out just to find out if any of the particular mechanics have enough synergy to overwhelm the synergy that are currently being played in the decks.
I'm also interested to see what colors the mechanics are in. Like, obviously, Embalm is going to be in white, but it could be in green-white.
It doesn't necessarily have to only be in
red-white. You know, like, depending on if this is a shard colored set or not, it could be the Naya shard mechanic or something.
The red, green, white.
Yeah. And Embalm, or not Embalm, Exert seems like it could be in just about any color. Maybe not blue, although, you know, when this creature attacks, exert it to draw a card seems like it's...
Yeah, that seems like a black card.
I don't know. Maybe.
Because it's card draw with a drawback.
I think it would need a little bit more of a drawback than that. Like, you know...
I'm sure if it were actually a set, it would be... Well, it would probably be pay a life, draw a card, and the exert. But
yeah, it seems like there's a lot of interesting design space that they could use the exert mechanic for, depending on the color. So, I don't know.
Could be interesting.
The Planeswalker deck Gideon that they have spoiled.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen this guy?
No, haven't seen him yet.
When you plus him, he untaps all of your creatures. So any effect that will untap your creature ignores the fact that you may or may not have exerted your creature.
That's gross.
If it's untapped, it's untapped.
Yeah.
It just won't then untap on your upkeep if it gets tapped again.
I've seen a lot of people talking about him as though he's definitely going to be standard playable.
Really? I mean, not as long as current Gideon's in standard.
I think he goes in a different deck.
Better.
Can you read him?
We don't have his loyalty yet, is the big thing.
Okay.
But Gideon Marshall Paragon is 4 and a white for...
A something.
Something.
I would think he'd probably start 4 or 5.
That was I assumed
probably.
5, 4.
Yeah, I would say probably 5, just because the current one starts at 4.
But what people are saying is that he's splashable, which is completely true. Because, 4 and a white...
Much more so than 2 white, yeah.
Okay, so what does he do?
Okay, so +2. Untap creatures you control. They get +1/+1 until end of turn.
Interesting.
Now, that's at sorcery speed, so it's not going to help you during combat if you're trying to undo the exert. But...
It gives you choice.
It gives you options. You can either do it before combat to give them the +1.
Well, no. What you do is you exert your creatures, you leave them tapped, and then next turn you can untap them pre-combat and give them +1/+1.
Fair enough. His 0 is he turns into a 5/5 human soldier with indestructible.
Which, can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
I haven't had the chance to play with too many Gideons in actual formats,
Yeah,
but
you're more of
that seems like bland, generic Gideon.
It is.
Neutral ability.
It is. He's basically always done... Well, no, there have been a couple of Gideons that don't, but he basically always does that.
Like, that's literally what his current abilities +1 is.
This is a Planeswalker deck Planeswalker. So you would expect Gideon to be able to turn into a creature and hit your opponent.
Really? Can you not do something a little more interesting?
No. This is Gideon.
Come on, Gideon, shape up. I don't care if you're expected to die in this next set. I want you to do something exciting.
Gideon hits people.
Okay.
That's what Gideon does.
Okay, what's his -10? Is it exciting?
Creatures
you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. Tap all creatures your opponents control.
And let's mention that again. That is a -10 ability. I mean, I understand that his plus is a +2, but holy cow. Like, that's starting...
He better start at 7 then.
Like...
No, well, okay.
Most Planeswalkers can ultimate within 3 turns.
Most Planeswalkers can. This is a temporary +2, which is weird. But again, this is a Planeswalker deck. It's a generic deck. It's not meant to be a fantastic
If his loyalty starts at 5, that's 3 turns.
Yeah, so yes. That's why I would think it probably is.
It's probably 5. But the ultimate ability is supposed to be able to win you the game. And this ultimate can. If you've got creatures, you give them +2/+2, and you tap all your opponent's creatures so they can get in. If you have, say, 3 creatures, that's an extra 6 damage, which is,
by the time you're at a point where you've dropped a 5-drop and
plus him
twice,
times.
chances are pretty good your opponent's just dead.
Yeah. So,
Well, or that your opponent is in a stable board position and this does nothing.
That's true too.
the reason I've seen people talking about this Gideon being standard playable is not his -10.
No.
It's his +1. or
his,
+2.
Or even just a 0, which is relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, he's a 5/5 indestructible
For five. Which
so,
you'd play every time.
and splashing him in blue control decks is what I keep hearing.
Because they do already play Gideon if they can. So
Right. And this one's just easier to play.
Sure.
Interesting.
Although with a white Wrath coming into standard,
Presumably. That would be a gross combination. I would like to clear the board and then kill you with my 5/5 indestructible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I gotcha.
Or, take the extra turns to get back your army of
Sure, and replay everything on the board.
1/3s
and then give
or
them all
whatever.
+1/+1. Alright, maybe.
Yeah, I mean there are options.
It would need to be an aggressive deck, because he does nothing to protect himself or you, the player, but...
No.
So...
Yeah.
So what else has been spoiled? Anything there's some stuff that we are familiar with, yes?
Yeah, they've included a considerable number of reprints, which I think is the fact just that they are spoiling the reprints first.
Yeah, they spoiled one more relevant new card, which is the one that uses the brick counters. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
There's also the buy the box.
The buy the box?
Yes, and do you know what that means? It means that we still haven't talked about the third mechanic, which is not a new one.
Oh, that's right. So
that's right.
Oh, yes.
The parallels to Theros keep getting deeper and deeper here.
Which is not unexpected in another god-themed deck.
I guess.
Or set, yeah.
There are, murmurings about gods.
Mm-hmm.
There are murmurings about a planeswalker dying, and I don't think that's likely. Gideon is their champion white planeswalker, and they don't have someone...
And after Elsbeth dying herself...
In Theros, and they don't have...
I'm sorry, what was that? Does that sound like the lovely repetition of history as we know it?
Yeah, they don't...
It's on theme.
Do all of the same things, usually.
Sure.
And they were trying to thin their white planeswalker herd. They don't have another big white planeswalker right now.
Ajani!
Ajani is the Selesnya walker. As much as I want him to be a red-green-white planeswalker, he is their green-white.
So
walker.
tell us about why this is similar to Theros blocks.
So Theros had Scry, which was on theme for Greek mythology. The oracles scried, cards from the top. It was a way of fixing your mana, fixing your top decks, smoothing out your draws, things like that. This set has another returning mechanic called cycling. And cycling just means you can pay the cycling cost and pitch whatever the cycle card is
from your hand
to draw a card. It's a way of getting rid of big things that you don't need for hopefully something you do need. If you can play the cards in your hand, then the cycling doesn't matter. But if you can't, it can get you to your lands.
I'm guessing also if there's going to be graveyard recursion, this can be a fun way of getting big things into the graveyard.
Yeah.
So cycling you can pull them back.
Really well with graveyard themes.
Yep. Plus, in the buy the box promo, they've put on some new cards that interact with cycling, like Astro Slide did in the past. The buy the box just says that whenever you cycle, or if you discard another card from your hand. So, but when you're cycling, you are discarding, but this just means that if you're playing like a Black-Red Madness type of deck with some Shadows over Innistrad type of enablers, that still counts. You get to put -1/-1 counter on, is that each creature your opponent controls? So,
yes.
And this is pretty strong.
This is from the...
And that's on a 5-mana 5/4 flyer, which you would play anyway.
So yeah, this is the black version of that red dragon. Mm-hmm. This is the black, he's a demon, Archfiend of Ifnir, 3 black for a 5/4 with flying, and he has that whenever you cycle or discard, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control. But he also has cycling 2 himself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have 3 black,
or if you want to get him into your graveyard for any reason.
Right. You can pay the 2, pitch him, and draw a card from the top of your deck.
And this is your gift card when you buy a box.
Yes.
This is the buy a box promo. Yep.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
I don't think I'm going to be able to afford a box at launch, but we'll see. I think this card is sweet.
Oh, yeah.
It's a flyer. I'm happy.
It
that does an extra thing.
It makes me start to think about what other cards they're putting in that interact with cycling and or discard, because if it's enough, I mean, the Madness deck has always kind of just wanted enough to get there.
Yeah.
And if there's enough good cycling cards, maybe it'll finally crack open that tier 2 list.
Can be recurred.
Yeah.
Or if any of the... Now, they haven't officially spoiled the... I don't even know what they're called, but the one that has a split... the split flashback card.
Yes.
If any of those have cycling, and you can just play the second part from your graveyard.
Sure.
That's also value.
Yes.
I don't know if there's been a card with flashback and cycling outside of an unset in the past, but seems like it would be very strong.
And then
You're
want to...
completely silent?
I'm nodding. There's nothing else for me to add. Yeah. I was just waiting for you to move on to the next exciting thing.
The last thing I wanted to ask people's opinions on was the thing that uses brick counters.
Yes.
So we've got an artifact at Rare. So we haven't seen any artifacts outside of Rare yet, but it's early days. It's called Oracle's Vault. 4 mana for an artifact. You can pay 2 and tap it to exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card, put a brick counter on Oracle's Vault. And then you can tap it and exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you can play that card without paying its mana cost, but only if there are 3 or more brick counters on Oracle's Vault.
Unless there's a lot more library manipulation in this set, I don't think it's going to be very useful in Limited.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't think it's going to be that useful in Constructed, because I think it's too slow for where the most of the aggressive type of decks are at now.
What do you think about it as a cube card?
I'm sure it'll be sweet. Just like Brain in a Jar is pretty sweet if you're trying to build around it in a casual environment.
I like the feel of the card, but it's a 4-drop and then pay 2 and tap it 3 times to draw to maybe
so
draw
now
3
you're
cards.
At least turn 7, probably turn 8.
And then you're getting a free card every turn, which is pretty sweet. But only if you've really engineered your deck for that.
Yeah, and again, it's much better with library manipulation of some sort, which this is where this, if it were actual scry, it would come into play a little bit more rather than cycling, because obviously then you can just put your expensive card on top that you want to play and cast it for free, but...
Yeah. Well, you can get that in Cube, but probably not in this set.
So, probably a nice jank build around, especially if you use something like the, whatever that article was from this set, where you got to untap all your stuff when you cast spells.
From Aether Revulsion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but Paradox Engine?
Yeah, that would be
Paradox Engine.
Yeah, so that could lead to some interesting combos.
Ooh.
You're welcome.
You know, those are both going to be in Standard at the same time.
They are, in fact, both going to be in Standard at the same time.
That seems like your kind of deck, Laura.
It does kind of seem like my type of deck, doesn't it?
Okay.
I can't say I hadn't noticed the interaction.
Okay, so here's my question. What do you guys think so far of the flavor? I just saw, as we're scrolling through the spoilers, there is a cat creature card, which I think is on point for this particular set. Let's talk first about Gravedigger. Gravedigger is being reprinted, and it's a great card regardless.
It's a solid, good card.
And that's what I mean.
I think the art is fantastic.
The art is amazing. Describe the art for those who are listening to the podcast and haven't seen it.
It's just an emaciated zombie carrying a corpse out of a sand dune. It looks really cool.
Which is exactly what you do with the card.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's just, for those who don't know, it's 3 and a black, so 4 mana for a 2/2. But when it enters the battlefield, you can return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Mm-hmm. Which, if there's a creature that you cycled earlier and want to get back...
I think Gravedigger is going to be pretty relevant in that set.
Oh, yeah.
It's always just been a good value card.
Yeah.
What's he sitting at? Uncommon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's where he belongs.
So, I have to say, flavor-wise, and, I mean, you guys played during Theros a lot more than I did. I've mostly just played it in Cuban flashbacks and stuff like that. With Theros, it seemed like it was more Greek mythology themed. Mm-hmm. Like, they took some aspects of it, but then they also went in more of an original direction. Like, they made enchantments to be a super strong theme, mm-hmm. and things like that, which weren't necessarily linked directly to Greek mythology. Whereas with this theme, it kind of seems to me like they just went, what is everything stereotypically Egyptian? Great, we're putting it in.
That's what they're spoiling so far.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how things go.
I don't know how much you remember of when they started spoiling Theros. Did you?
Not much, no.
So they made it very clear that Theros was the gods, heroes, and monsters themed set. I mean, the Heroes versus Monsters dual decks was the thing that came out just before Theros.
Right.
And that was their whole design aesthetic for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what their key elements for Amonkhet were, but I'm assuming the graveyard was one of them.
Oh, I think so.
And based on the fact that they're just using brick counters as opposed to, like, I don't know, builders counters or like, usually they have some fantasy name for counters.
Yeah, I think that, like,
they're building tombs.
I think that kind of puts a finger on it. Like, Theros, as a complete set anyway, it seems like a Greek theme in a fantasy world, whereas this just seems like, yep, it's Egypt.
Yeah, and certainly the art is on point for that.
Like, it doesn't seem like they've tried to translate it into Egypt-themed magic world.
This is our version of, this is more like this is the...
Yeah. So, obviously, other spoilery things coming out could change this. We haven't seen too many new cards, just a lot of reprints. So, it'll really be interesting to see how they've decided to approach the flavor of this.
Have you read any of the flavor text on the cards?
I have read a few, yes, including the fact that they've spoiled the name of, I think it was the cat goddess?
The cat goddess,
yes. Yeah. The cat goddess's, or god's, name is Oketra.
Yes.
You know, now that you mention it, it does seem like the flavor text is very much, this is Egypt. But that's the way the flavor text in Theros felt too. Like, they did the whole Iliad analog in the Theriad in the flavor text. Mm-hmm. They had, this is Greece.
Maybe it's just that Egypt is more commonly used as a go-to cliche type of environment in, like, Hollywood movies and stuff like that. Like, if you've seen The Mummy, you've seen every Egyptian cliche ever, whereas Greek mythology itself, aside from, like, Xena and Hercules, which were mostly back in the 90s, you don't really see as much of it these days, so maybe it's a bit more removed.
The funny thing is that a lot of Greek and Roman mythological building blocks are the building blocks for storytelling throughout.
Yeah, absolutely they
everywhere.
are. But again, it's usually kind of changed enough. So what do you think, Tams?
I think, given that Greek mythology is so steeped with just, there's so much of it. Mm-hmm. There's so much stuff. I think it was easier for them to pull, like, oh, here's Icarus, and here's, those stories out. Whereas with the Egyptian mythology, there's a little less of that. I think that's...
You think it's more compact?
I think it's more generic. Like, everyone knows that there were pharaohs, and there were gods, and there were cats, and there were temples, but not a lot of people. Like, there were a lot of real people when you talk about Egypt and the pharaohs and stuff. These were people that actually lived. And we don't have as much, like the stories of the gods and those,
Right, the Greek gods probably didn't exist, and...
Well, that's true. But like the folk stories, we'll just call it, for lack of a better word, aren't as well known for Egyptian mythology as they are for Greek. Like, everyone knows who Hercules is. Name me...
This is probably the wrong
wrong
group
crowd
to be proving your point, because
Okay,
at
so...
least I have studied, Egyptian.
So name me a famous Egyptian story that is on the same kind of global level of recognition as, say...
the Iliad, the Odyssey.
Those are Greek.
Yes, that was the point.
No, I was going to say like Hercules or Medusa or any of these things that are just so steeped in our culture already.
So, I didn't know if we were going to bring this up, but Moses?
Yeah, but I don't...
That's not Egyptian, I know.
No, but you see what I mean? Like, we build a lot of our current storytelling on Greek mythos and stories from that time, whereas when we look at how we tell stories about Egyptian stuff, it's got the mummy.
Yeah, the mummy.
So shouldn't that have given them even more design space?
And that's what I'm wondering. Is it's
yes and no, because here's the way they design these things. They
have said that this is a top-down set.
Right. So was Theros, and so was Kamigawa. Yeah,
so presumably they could have put in as much. Again, we haven't seen the full spoiler.
But here's the problem. They learned from their mistakes in Kamigawa that they need to put...
With the most useless creatures ever.
No, it was more just the fact that things weren't recognizable to their audience. So in Theros, what they did was they put all of the recognizable stuff at common, and the really flavorful stuff that was maybe a little less recognizable at rare and mythic.
Really? I find that interesting because I actually studied Japanese when I was younger, and of all the cards I've seen of the Kamigawa set, I recognize a lot of it.
You studied.
Yes, so I'm understanding, I think, a bit more your point about the Egyptian side of things where you have studied.
Right. So their problem here is that what most people know about Egyptian mythology is the mummy,
Sure, that's true.
So the pharaohs and the gods are far less recognizable than, say, the Greek gods. Everyone knows Zeus throwing a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
Not everyone knows about Osiris and weighing your heart against a feather and all that stuff.
Yeah. Really?
That's...
Yeah.
Oh.
A lot of people don't know about that stuff.
Maybe I watched too much Highlander.
Could be.
Right?
But that being said, there is something to be said for they could be using... I mean, they are designers, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're kind of along the lines of nerdy geeks like we are, and you get excited about doing a project. So chances are pretty good that they've read the stuff, but if people aren't knowing where the stuff comes from, it also will give them the opportunity to do this stuff without people even...
They do go deep. Like, look at... from Theros, the Vulpine Goliath and the 100-handed one.
I love the 100-handed one.
Hecatonchires is awesome. But they do that stuff either where it doesn't matter, in the case of the Vulpine Goliath, this could be a generic creature.
Yes.
Or at rare. For Hecatonchires, he was a splashy rare.
Sure.
So
since they haven't really spoiled too many of the new rares, maybe that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
We will see.
We don't have that much of the set. Yeah. What we do have is enough to tell us that there's a story here between how you live your life affects how you have your afterlife. In the flavor text, we see things like people taking the trials so they can be embalmed, rather than, and so that they can escape the curse of undeath.
Sure.
And that is very flavorful for Egyptian. At least I think so. And the fact that they have they've brought to common and uncommon the idea of if you're prepared for death properly, then you'll have a fine afterlife, and if you're not prepared for death, then you'll have a crappy afterlife. You know, that is Egyptian flavor.
I'm really looking forward. I'm just getting more excited the more that they spoil, the more that I see.
I just really hope that they don't miss the opportunity to reprint Jackal-Pup.
And if they do, boy, will he have words for you, Morrow.
I will be sad, and I will let you know how sad I am.
There will be pouting.
Over and over again. Every time we draft red, it'll be, why bother? There's no Jackal-Pup.
I mean, there's a hyena pack.
So that should give you some hope.
Also, Fling is back.
Yes.
I saw that with a new art.
Leads to some interesting possibilities in Standard, particularly the electrostatic pummeler pump 'em up deck. I would like to attack you for 10, and then I'm going to throw him at you.
That seems like a lot of fun.
I can get my pummeler up to like 40 power, but he's summoning 6, so I can't kill you. But wait! I will instead throw him at you.
Yep.
That is so flavorful. I love it.
So, anything else we wanted to talk about spoilers-wise?
I do like the flavor text for Impeccable Timing, which they are reprinting.
Again.
So first of all, remind people what Impeccable Timing is.
It's 1 and a white for an instant that deals 3 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. So it's very generic.
It's fine.
It's the white lightning strike.
Too, yeah.
You know?
It's fine.
The flavor text is, to a trained warrior, there is scarcely a more potent weapon than patience.
Ooh.
I like that.
That's the title.
It's really good.
Impeccable timing. It's also got a minotaur, which is weird for...
An Egyptian theme. Well, it's not that...
They're
yeah, right.
Minotaurs are specifically Greek.
They are.
They're also a magic staple.
Yeah.
Fair enough, yeah.
But it's a minotaur walking between blade traps.
Oh, neat.
So there may or may not be traps in this set. We'll find out.
That would be interesting.
Tomb traps would be,
Yeah, because that would be very Egyptian.
That would be very flavorful.
So I guess we'll find out. It may just be in the art, but I think this would be a good place to reprint traps.
Agreed.
Or print new traps.
I'm calling it now Rolling Boulder.
Yeah.
It's going to be...
they had a Rolling Boulder card in Zendikar. They didn't call it Rolling Boulder, but it was basically the Indiana Jones.
Really?
The
That's
Raiders
amazing.
of the Lost Ark Rolling Boulder.
That's amazing.
We'll
So they've already done it. All right. Fair enough.
They have, but they could also always do it again.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be
Wizards,
awesome.
we're watching you.
Yeah.
So. All right, so I think that's pretty much it for news. We've only been at this for most of an hour, so we're just going to quickly talk about updates then, and then we'll head off. Yes,
we had more to talk about.
There are a few other things to talk about. So the first thing is that on Friday, we all went to the store and we drafted an Eldritch Moon / Shadows over Innistrad flashback draft that our star owner put on.
I didn't get a chance to do that at all. I didn't get a chance to play. We didn't draft it,
period. Yeah. I have no interaction with the cards.
I drafted it quite a lot.
Yeah. It was fun.
So what Tams did was I went on Channel Fireball and looked up archetypes.
Yay!
And I was like, this one looks crappy. I don't like this one. Ooh, look. White blue flyers. I was very sad.
So she just forced it.
Well, you see, here's the thing. My general go-to when I don't know a set or a cube is to look for white, red, some sort of Boros-y aggro. Because generally speaking, it is an archetype or it works well in any set. One of the first things this article said was, by the way, little creatures, even with Anthem cards, are not a thing you're going to be doing in this set. And I just went... Oh, really? Well, I'm glad I read this. So yeah, so my first pack one pick one was some red, super flashy looking card, and I was like, okay. And then I started to see all of the white and blue flyers, the commons that they were talking about in this article, and they're going around, and I'm grabbing up some stuff, and then I'm grabbing some other things, and a whole bunch of really nice quote-unquote removal, and then I was a monster, and I grabbed some counter spells.
Wow.
I know, right?
You?
I know! And
how dare you?
I didn't lose a round. It was.
You mean you went undefeated?
I went undefeated. It was amazing.
Your technical record was 2-0-1.
Yes.
But
Yes.
basically, you won the whole thing.
It was amazing.
Not quite.
No, I didn't, but not quite. But it was so great. I had so much fun. And it's really powerful with some of the added cards. I'm actually going to do a little article more so. I mean, I'll break down the deck. I'll show you what I drafted, but more so to talk about that it was a little bit outside of how I normally construct my evasion kind of aggro decks. I had a little more control than I normally do. So I'm going to kind of talk about that. But I had a really fun time.
So I was up against her in the first round, and I had a reasonable mid-range.
What did you draft?
I drafted red-green and ended up in werewolves.
Yeah,
and
which is the red-green mechanic.
I thought I was going to go... I started trying to go mono-red, but there was another mono-red drafter at the table.
Who actually went mono-red.
Who actually went mono-red and was snapping up all my good red stuff. So instead I grabbed the good green stuff.
Which was unfortunate for him, because there were 2 green drafters to his right.
Yeah, I noticed 2 picks too late that I was in red-green werewolves because I passed an
Ulrich.
An Ulrich.
To some unnamed third drafter who will tell you all about it in just a moment.
But I still think it was the right pick at the time, because at that point I wasn't sure that that's what I was doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway. So you faced Tams in round 1.
I faced Tams in round 1, and I had probably the best curve that I could have gone. I was 1 turn away from dropping Alpha Authority, or
what,
Authority, the red 6-drop that whenever it's blocked, it deals 3 damage to each blocking creature and 3 damage.
I don't know if
to
you
your
saw
opponent.
LSV played that in what he called his mediocre red-white, or I think it was red-white mid-range deck. I think it was at the Pro Tour. He played that, and then his opponent attacked, and he played... There's a combat trick that says your creature gets +2/+10 and can block any number of creatures.
Yep.
And then he blocked all of his opponent's creatures and killed his opponent.
20 to the face.
Ouch.
Yeah, that seems about LSV speed.
So anyways, continue, sorry.
So I was on turn 5, and I'm like, okay, I can probably get back into this, because she'd hit me a couple of times with her
My
flyers.
little flyers.
I'm like, alright, I have a removal spell. I want to play a creature this turn. I'll play a removal spell next turn. And then she 14'd me to the face with her creatures.
And you died horribly in pain?
And I died horribly in pain.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
14 in the air on turn 5.
And what did I say as soon as you took the dance?
Sorry. And I'm like,
I'm
don't
sorry.
you dare. You better win this thing.
I felt bad, but it was so fun.
It was impressive. I don't mind losing in an impressive manner.
And that is impressive in draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was fun. So how did your draft go? What did you do?
My draft was sweet. I've mentioned previously that I love drafting this set, and I usually ended up drafting black-green. In this particular draft, we had, I think, at least... So there were 10 drafters. I think 4 or 5 of them had never drafted the set.
Yeah.
So for at least the first pack, the signals were really weird. At first, I thought I might be in green-blue, which is the Emerge deck and is really strong, and then I thought I might end up in black-blue, which is not a very strong deck, but it's fine if you get the right cards for it. But nope, I ended up in black-green, and because nobody to my right was very experienced, and none of them really understood the Delirium deck and how to build it, so I was getting deadweights 14th. I got a couple of Boon of Emrakul's 10th. And I was just like, I guess I'm going to have to be forced to draft my favorite deck in this entire set.
It's always good when that happens.
Yeah,
so
satisfying.
It's
It's not too bad. So then some fool in Pack 2 passed me an Ulrich, and I had already picked up a Terrarian. Or, no, I ended up picking a Terrarian, rather. So I was able to just splash the red for that one card, and it was beautiful. My deck was amazing. I had so much fun playing it. I usually had Delirium online super quick. I didn't have too many of the payoffs just because most of them, of course, are in the single pack of Pack 3. But I did have the Tooth Collector, which can give things -1/-1, and is really annoying because there are a fair number of creatures that are X1s. It can usually either kill things or at least keep them manageable so you win combats.
It was 4 rounds. I think you were 2-1-1 or 3-0-1 or something.
3-0-1.
3-0-1. So that was what was messing up my
Yeah, so I went 3-1. I lost only to the guy who drafted the disgusting blue-red spells deck and went on to completely crush all opposition and win.
Yep.
So I don't feel too badly about that. And I actually gave him pretty good games. We were both playing mono removal deck basically, so just his removal could also go to the face and mine couldn't.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how he got me.
Yeah, that was my problem with him too.
Yes. So it was a very fun night, and I'm glad a lot of people got to come out and play one of my favorite sets.
Yeah. 8 out of 10 would do again.
Yeah.
And this week coming up is another flashback draft for us that we're going to go draft, and it's RTR, and I'm so excited.
And this time I'm going to be the newbie, because I've only played RTR cards in the Modern Masters and Cube, basically.
Triple RTR, I think you'll like it. Black-green is a deck, but it is not a scavenge deck. It's just sort of a value creatures deck. So that's something I think you would probably enjoy playing. Even though I know you're the control player, but I still...
I also tend to draft what's open.
So it's going to be fun.
When money's on the line.
So yeah, we'll definitely look forward
Can't
to
wait for that.
So that was Friday.
And then Saturday was
Saturday came around.
Yes, the three of us went to our friend's place, the shop owner of the store that we go to, and we got to do back-to-back.
Well, no, we were helping him out. We were doing him a favor.
We totally did him a solid.
Helping him open up a couple of boxes for the store because his stock had been depleted.
It's a terrible shame that he had to do so much work on the weekend.
Yeah,
so we all got together. He brought together,
we were the moral support.
7 friends to help him open all of those packs because it's hard.
There's like 24 of them or something.
Yeah,
like that's a lot.
Yeah. And then we decided we're already here. We might as well just play a game or two. So we did back-to-back drafts.
Yeah, until like 1:30 in the morning, basically.
We were there for one draft, and then halfway through, he was like, we could totally do this again after we're done.
Another box opened.
And we all conferred and decided, we want to play Modern Masters again. Because it is so much fun.
So this is now like the 4th and 5th time, basically, that we have collectively drafted Modern Masters. Which is a lot more than I thought I was going to do.
We thought we were going to do it once, and then once online.
Yeah.
So this has been amazing.
So
I've actually done it 7 times.
Oh, yes. So just to quickly run through our decks, I guess. The very first draft that we did, I went Bant. So blue, green, white. I had 90% of my deck was gold cards of some form or another. I had a lot of the blue-white flyers. I had a fair number of the Rock Smaller Lifelinky guys. I had the Stoic Angel. And then somebody was kind enough to pass me Cube All-Star Simic Sky Swallower, which won me every game where I played it.
You're welcome.
I had first picked a Primal Command, which also was very useful because then I could go get my Simic Sky Swallower.
What'd you pick over Sky Swallower?
Something in my colors.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I was in Jund.
Yeah, fair enough.
So then the second draft, I opened up a Niv Mizzet, decided I was forcing blue-red, and I didn't care what anybody else was doing. And then pack 2, I knew I was going to need to focus on fixing very, very highly. So I had already like a couple of Izzet Signets, and I had also taken a couple of black mana fixings just because there was nothing else I needed in the pack. And I figured that way if I needed to splash a third color, I could and might as well be black. And then I opened up an Olivia.
Yeah, that was gross.
And she's a disgusting magic card. And so I decided I was going Grixis, which was unfortunate because Tams was 2 seats to my right, and she was also going Grixis, but I'll let Tans tell you about that.
Yeah, so my first deck, I drafted Jund, and for the first 2 rounds, I played with the black in, and then realized that it was slowing me down big time. It just was not worth the splash. So I took it out.
So you're just a red-green?
I went red queen,
yeah,
and then
like
handily won the next round with no problems because suddenly I'm not worrying about getting that third color. My blood rush is super fast because it was a very blood rushy kind of centric deck. So that was really fun. And then draft 2, as you said, I did the same thing you did, except my red was my splash, and it was pack 1, pick 1, Cruel Ultimatum. And I was like...
Which is the definition of the Grixis finisher.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? I don't even know what deck this belongs in. I'm just taking it because it's fun.
Sweet.
And then I go to Mizzium Mortars, and I was like, this is sweet.
Which is the red removal spell where you can overload it into a board sweeper.
Yeah, and then I got a couple of other red cards, but for the most part, I was black-blue because that's what was coming to me. Mm-hmm. And when I went to build the deck, I spent a lot of time looking at what I had. I had a whole bunch of guild gates. Like, I think I had 7 guild gates. So it was completely, like, it wasn't even hard to splash. And then I actually looked at the deck, and it was a very aggressive blue-black base. And I thought, you know what? I'm not running the red because the guild gates are going to slow me down. If I get them in my hand midway through the game and suddenly everything comes in tapped, so annoying. Mm-hmm. Yes, Mizzium Mortars is a great card, but I can bring that in from the sideboard. And yes, Cruel Ultimatum is fun and super cool, but is it really going to do more for my deck than a solid, fast two-color mana base is going to do? So I made the decision to not run the red, and I did not regret it at all.
You know what's hilarious to me is that you start with Cruel Ultimatum and Mizzium Mortars, which are the definition of control.
Yeah.
And then
end up in a, quote, aggressive
blue-black
spell.
Yeah, but I did run counterspells in my blue-black thing, but they were the smaller, more...
was it a Spell Pierce?
Yeah, I ran a Spell Pierce. I didn't mainboard it at first. I brought it in against you because you had that stupid Gruul chant, which we'll get to your deck in a second.
Chant,
yeah, so...
My Grixis deck was disgustingly control-y.
Yeah, well, okay, so it was a late night. I was super tired, and I was
at this point it was like 11:30.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever talked about this kind of thing on the show, but I have anxiety problems sometimes. And I was feeling quite anxious. It was warm, and it had just gotten to the point where I was feeling like I shouldn't be playing anymore. You really need to, and we listen to this on Limited Resources, where you need to know if you should be playing or not. And if you get to the point where you shouldn't be playing, you shouldn't be playing. So Laura and I played a game, and it was, I was having problems getting my lands, and she bounced my only green source to the top of my library. And then she has all this removal, and she stomped me quite quickly, and
then we were talking about it, and you're like, yeah, your deck is just so controlling. I was like, and you didn't even see my counter spells.
And so I said, concede. And she's like, ha ha ha. No, really? I'm like, yeah, I'm conceding game 2 and game 3. I'm sorry. I said I can't do it because what's going to happen is if I can't do anything, I'm going to get frustrated, and it's going to color my mood. And I don't want to get cranky because we're here to have fun.
Yes, it is a casual game.
But I'm just feeling really, really tired, and I'm feeling it. So I made the decision not to play. Instead, we sat and chatted and talked with other people. And for me, it was the right decision because I really just needed a little downtime, quiet. So
we played a lot of Magic.
Oh, yeah.
That was 8 hours of Magic we played. Yeah. So, Step, you're...
Yeah, that's right. We got there at 6 and we left at 2.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, basically.
So what did you...
Just before we move on, though, I just want to mention in my deck, my Olivia. So I played against Tams round 2.
And this was the other reason I conceded, because a lot of my black were vampires.
And Olivia, she can pay 1 and a red to ping a creature, deal 1 damage to it. And if she does that, she turns it into a vampire, and she gets a +1/+1 counter. She also has...
that's right. This is Olivia Voldaren.
Yeah, she has a second ability, which is 3 black... Take control over target vampire creature.
Yeah, she's Count Dracula.
So flavorful.
So basically, if I got her on the board, you and if you have mana, you then just start pinging things and taking their stuff, or just pinging things and killing it. Mm-hmm. But if they're playing vampires, you don't have to pay the mana to ping. You can just take the mana to devour their creatures for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So that didn't help. But my third round opponent, who's the store owner, he was playing black-red sacrifice with mono vampires. So I played him both games. I got Olivia down, and pretty much...
Is that what I heard?
That pretty much won the game.
No!
So game 1, I got her down. He had no removal, so he had to scoop, because I then just started taking all of his stuff.
Yeah.
And then game 2, I actually played Niv Mizzet first. I had both in my hand. I had the mana to play both. I figured if he had removal and he used it on Niv Mizzet, well, I guess I'll just have to play Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
So he eventually killed Niv Mizzet. He did kill my Olivia as well, but at that point, nobody had anything on the board. I had a Goblin Electromancer, which I was pecking in for 2.
It is still just a bear.
It is just a bear. So, and I had 4 of them in my deck. So, so I was just kind of getting in there. we were both top decking a lot of land. And then I happened to draw the 1 blue-black counter target creature spell, return target creature from your graveyard. Mm-hmm. He goes to play a creature. I still have the Electromancer on the field, so I'm perfectly happy to just wait until he plays a creature to bother getting anything back. So he goes for it. I play it. He knows I have both Olivia and Niv Mizzet in my graveyard that I can return to my hand, and I had the mana to play both of them and start doing things. So that was the end of that game too. It was very fun. Olivia is a broken, disgusting magic card, and
she is.
She's like a tier above Niv Mizzet, even, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And if you get the chance to play her, you should absolutely, no matter what the mana requirements.
Interesting.
Yes. So, Steph, please tell us about your deck.
Well, the first one, I was basically Gruul. I was splashing 2 white cards, and my splash was with 2 Guild Gates and 2 Abyssinian Pilgrims.
Mm-hmm, that's the green 1-drop that taps for white.
That taps for white. So the splash was very, very light, and see, that's... I don't even think we're going to get to it on this episode. We're going to talk about, the mana in Modern Masters. We'll talk about that next time.
Yeah.
But I love splashing 1 or 2 cards if I can make it work. And the best way to make that work is with creatures.
Absolutely. Because you're playing them anyway.
Because I'm playing them anyway. Because I wanted to ramp anyway. So I, what was it? Fiery Justice?
Yeah, that was one of the cards that I had that I chose not to run because in my deck.
But for me, it was perfect. It's deal 5 damage divided any way, and your opponent gains 5 life. Mm-hmm. So it usually ended up kill 3 creatures, your opponent gains 2 or 3. Right. And that's perfectly fine when I'm bashing in with a...
Bully Loxodon or whatever.
Not Bully Loxodon, but yeah. Woolly Thoktar.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite play, I think, was turn 1 Avacyn's Pilgrim, turn 2 Burning Tree Emissary into Woolly... we just said it. Woolly Thoktar. Swing for 6 on turn 3.
Yeah. Or not even that. If you had the Burning Tree out there, you're swinging for 8.
Yeah. Swing, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, swing for 8 on turn 3. And that was, that felt so good. So I think I went 2-1 with that Gruul deck.
I think so. I ended up going 2-1 both rounds.
Yeah. But it was a whole lot of fun. And then in my second draft, I really didn't want to do the same thing, but that was just what came to me. It was red-green with black, or it was more red-black with green. So instead of doing a power mid-range, it was much more of an aggressive black-red deck with a green splash.
Which is interesting, because you were in between Tams and I, so Tams was to your right, she was passing you the red. You were taking the red, I was taking all the control cards.
Yeah, so there was red and black on either side of me being taken, but I just got the stuff that neither of them wanted.
Yeah, because we were all doing different types.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say the splash in that deck was the dragon that makes a 4/4 dragon.
Broodmate.
Broodmate dragon.
Yeah, I played you, and that was so frustrating.
And the Gruul War Chant. And Gruul War Chant will turn all of your dragon fodders into lava axes.
Yeah,
so
it's gross.
That feels real good.
Yeah, you got your revenge on me for the blue flyers the night before.
I did. I can't remember how much I did, but it wasn't quite turn 5, but it was...
It was enough to kill me.
The other fun thing was I was playing against Sean, and he was doing the vampires thing, but he was splashing blue, and he had I don't remember what the card's called, but it's 4 mana steal a thing. blue, black, and 2.
Oh, the soul essence.
Yeah,
thing.
soul steal the soul of the thing.
The enchantment.
And I'm like, don't steal my dude. Before he even played it, I just saw him tapping. And he's like, how did you know? And it's just because
Which is funny, because Sean was 2 to my left.
Uh-huh.
So there was, he was also taking blue-black cards.
Yeah. So, it was a lot of fun. I think it was either a 3-0 or a 2-1 record in either or both of them. I think it was 2-1.
2-1 both.
2-1 both. Yeah. But it was very, very, very fun. Mm-hmm. I'm having a lot of fun with this set.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how the abundance of mana fixing means that most people are playing 3 colors or 2 in a splash, which just means that more people can be in the same colors.
Yeah.
Because nobody's wanting to get like every single blue and red card or whatever.
Yeah, it's true. So we've talked for quite a while now.
There are a lot of spoilers.
Are we?
I think we're gonna. Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up here. Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully next week we'll have more news, but also we'll have the chance to talk a bit more about some other topics.
Yep. Hopefully. Looking forward to it. But for now, I think it's time to maybe, I don't know. Anybody want to play some Magic?
There's a shocker. So thank you everyone for listening
and
spending time with us, and we will talk to you next week.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.